So in this schematic we've got a cable here, W1, running between this connector X1 and this connector XS1. This connector X1 exists inside a panel, and this connector, which interfaces to the motor, is external to that panel, so we need some form of harnessing going between the two. So this W1 has a harness running between the connector on the panel and the motor out in the field. Before we do that, I want to just run a tool off here. I select on this connect line here, go to the SolidWorks menu and create cable plan. We're able to produce a cable plan of the layout of this harness. So this is how this goes everything that somebody could actually go to produce this harness, with the pin-to-pin connections, what cores go onto which connector, etc., etc. The thing that's missing is the actual length. This actual report that we see of the cable plan is not just a done report, because it's created it inside the same project, and these are what we call alternate views of the same device. So the connector exists in the schematic, and it also exists inside this cable plan. And if I make a change here to the device name, you'll see it changes in the schematic, and it also changes inside this particular report as well, and every instance of where that connector exists is also updated. So taking this cable now, what we need to now is transfer that into the mechanical world, where we can let the mechanical engineers work out the route that cable takes, taking into consideration all of the things we discussed: bend radius, clash detection, etc. So to do that, we need to go fire off that import-export utility. So here we've got the interface showing all of the wires that exist in our project. These are single core wires, and down at the bottom we've also got our harness, and with the active highlight turned on, if I select this, you'll see that it highlights in the schematic showing us exactly which particular harness we're going to transfer across to SolidWorks. So I'll export that information, and we're also going to take across the cables from the E3 library and also the connectors from within the E3 library. Okay, quit that. Then we go to SolidWorks, and here's the model, the mechanical interface, and we're going to use using the routing information with the electrical tab. We're going to start with two from. So we'll just make sure we get the correct connectors there. So we need to pick the routing information, pick the connector information, and pick the cable information. And then we're going to start, we'll import that data, which will pop, and it'll find the parts, and when we've got those parts, we can then start to place them onto our schematic using SmartMates. So we've got the connector on the back of the panel, and we've got the connector on the bottom of the motor. Once we've placed them, we can then begin our route or route, and the information from the route and the connectivity comes through automatically, and these guidelines are shown. So I can reroute the guidelines, select on the harness there, and pass them through the clips around the frame, like so. So it's a very simple example of how we can transfer our electrical information through to the mechanical information. Okie dokie. So once we've done all the routing, then it's possible to cross-highlight between the two applications. So from E3 Wireworks, we can select on a connector, and using the menu, we can highlight that particular connector in SolidWorks, and if it finds it, it presents us with that connector. We can also highlight the route as well. The next stage in the process would be to take us from our harness to either a flattened form board harness, or to an actual documentation style, or to an actual form board style. So here the choice is how we present that information to and who takes ownership. So we could actually do the harness inside SolidWorks, or we could take the harness back into E3 Wireworks. It's entirely down to the individual company and users as to what their preference is. The lengths here can be transferred back into Wireworks. So if I go back into Wireworks now, I can run the utility. So we brought out our utility again to, this time we're going to import, and we'll browse for a file, and then we'll open that file and import that data, and that's now brought back the lengths to E3 Wireworks. And there we have the length of the cable there, 33.53 inches. So that sort of completes the loop as far as the length information there. Inside Wireworks, we've also got the ability to do a form board, which is a slightly more complex schematic here, where we can do splines and add cable protection, clips and ties, etc. And again, all the tabular information showing where cables route between